you outbreak yourself occasionally, and when you outbreak yourself, you're gonna find yourself not beating the cars you were trying to beat.
Well,
so,
you were beating them for a second, I think.
I had it, yeah. I mean, if they just stopped the race there,
yeah.
If we could have just got like a lightning delay at that moment, just right then and there. Welcome to Money Lap Podcast. I'm Parker Kligerman, joined as always by Landon Castle. Landon, did you know this? In 2022, your average finish in the Xfinity Series was 16.1. Mine right now is 15.3. I got to do some work.
Are you saying you're better than me?
Well, last week you threw shade at me by saying you had done a lot more in the sport than I have. So this time
Did I say that?
You did, yeah. When I said how many starts you had, and then there was a bit of shade thrown.
Is that what I said, or is that how it made you feel?
That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure, but
I didn't realize I struck such a chord.
I think you struck a chord. So I thought I'd throw in this
so
week instead of how many starts.
Fire back off with just some numbers,
statistics. I'm trying to
Barker's
find.
Like, I got some business I need to stand on right now.
Yeah, get out. Hear this. On today's show, we should say what people can expect. We will talk AI racing, boo, Aero-Blocking, and how spotters could be to blame. The Xfinity Series winner from Dover, Ryan Truex, will join us here on the podcast. Let's see if we can get a guest this week. We failed last week twice during the episode. We're going to see if we can get one this week. We'll see. He should be joining us. And some F1 designer news, so all that and much more, including some IndyCar stuff. But we start, as always, with the PR lap, Landon. And we have to announce something next week. So I guess it's a little confusing because we started the first week of May, so it's kind of this week, but we're saying it's next week, is our 1-year anniversary of starting this show and putting it out there. So we thought we'd do something special for all the fans and the listeners, which there are thousands of you, and it's grown consistently. So what are we going to do? We were thinking next week's episode could potentially just be a Q&A episode with questions from our listeners. So if you would like to be a part of the show for next week, you simply need to send us an email at friends@themoneylap.com. Friends@themoneylap.com. Send us your questions, your comments, your deepest fears and feelings, just like I did there of Landon and the way he threw shade and made me feel last week. You can do that to us. Just friends@themoneylap.com. Be a part of the show. The whole show will be dedicated to doing just that. We're going to see if we can pull it off.
Should we take this opportunity to get our newsletter referral winner on the show as well?
Maybe we should. That's right. We can't. Don't give it out. We'll put him on there as well. But we did.
Yeah. We owe that to. Okay. Yeah, one of our loyal subscribers who hit the unreachable accomplishment of I don't know how many it was, 100 referrals or more than that.
100. It was 100.
And the promise was that we would put him on the Money Lap podcast, so we owe it to him. Let's go.
Next week. That's a great point. We should do that. You've heard it here first. We just decided it. He should be on there as well. So it's going to be all about fans and listeners next week to celebrate doing this for one whole year. When I started this with Landon, I convinced you by saying we need to be prepared to do this for 10 years with 0 listeners. We're 1 year in, and we've definitely had a lot more than 0. So that's good.
That's good. Absolutely.
Speaking of which, we do have some new reviews out there on our quest to 200 on Apple reviews. I think we're just under 160. This one, top-notch content from Bad Brad VG. Great NASCAR content that others don't always cover. Plus, I don't want to play spoiler, but the transitions are, quote, pristine. Star transitions to ads. Well done. Thank you. Like your show, 5 stars from Trev Vrew. I love Landon Castle. When he raced, you were always my underdog to root for. Always wanted you to win. Parker, you were always so friendly, and love when you put the checkered flag in the track bar post when you won, and I love how you both are honest and funny with your podcast. Thanks, Trev. Big fan there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bunch on Spotify. You want to read any of these?
I'm just trying to figure out how to read the name Drangler. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I got that right. Road America's amazing. as far as being a natural track, Ozarks would be epic with Xfinity cars. I'd like to rent a seat in if NASCAR went there. Ozarks, what is that? They have a great road course, natural.
I guess I didn't know they had a race track
awesome.
out there.
Ozarks sounds like a really good NASCAR type venue too. Like not
What's
too
the
big
TV
of a...
show
Ozarks.
about? Is it just called Ozarks?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Go on.
McKay says the title makes me think Kyle Busch will finally get on the mic. I don't remember the title from that show. Was that I think that's from last week's episode. What was the title on last week's episode?
Nicotine pouches of the secret in NASCAR.
Oh, yes. Molemaster43 said, love this episode. Appreciate you all calling out F1 for its excessive dullness. Yes. Would love to hear some SMX coverage on here. Yes.
Ace motocross.
Yeah.
Supercross, motocross.
Okay. That's definitely venturing outside of my...
Your wheelhouse?
My wheelhouse. Awesome show. Look forward to it every week. Thank you, Molemaster. When you get some Supercross.
We could,
we could call Travis.
We'll call Travis Pastrana, get him on to talk some Supercross. And also, many years ago, I kept trying to get into Supercross, and I could never stick with it because it would always start a little bit before the race season. And I was like, oh, perfect. I'm going to get into it this year. And I would watch a little bit, and then racing would start, and then I'd just fall off. So it's a great series. I love watching that stuff and the fact that they've combined them all and all that stuff. But I pay attention, and I think those riders are amazing, but it's just not something I have been able to get into in a big way. So we also lost Landon for a second.
I had to mute because I took a drink of water, and it went backwards and upside down and everywhere in my throat.
No,
and
we lost him.
I'm still almost dead right now as I am speaking. I'm just fighting for my life at the moment.
That's fine. I'm used to speaking to myself. So I'll take some of the YouTube comments. You figure that out real quick. We'll let Landon get his breath back and come back to life. Matt Caldarelli on YouTube said, absolutely love listening to you two talk racing. Outstanding content. Thank you for this. And Lost Profit 5871. I just stumbled across this, and I'm glad I did. Two drivers I have a lot of respect for. I gave a sub and like, and I'll be listening from now on for sure. Parker, can you talk about how you got your start between being in broadcasting, etc.? Landon also wrote in the chat, this is his wife. Landon didn't make it. Okay.
Jeez.
No, we're never going to get you back.
I'm almost back.
Can I just say real quick to answer Lost Profit's question, how did I end up in broadcasting? Entirely by accident, and I like to say I failed my way into it. When Swan folded, I got a call from NBC who were taking over the TV contract, and they literally asked, would you like to do some TV? I had done some writing for Jalopnik and some YouTube stuff, but a young producer by the name of Chris Taylor saw me and put my name in the hat, and they reached out. So entirely by accident, and next thing I knew, I was doing it for a long period of time. So... and it led to this podcast. Who knows if we've been doing this without all that? So hopefully it was all meant to be.
I don't think we
would.
would
back?
be.
Are you live? No, I don't think we would.
I'm almost back. I'm like,
do it.
I still have like a little bit back here that I'm just gonna have to work it out. Like I don't know any other. We're just gonna have to get in the trenches here and figure it out. But
it's just when you need to dip at times, you just go. Now the listeners know that there's an issue here.
I know. I mean, if you want to know anything about grinding it out and just digging in, if you're a racing enthusiast looking for high quality diecast and apparel, then look no further than SpoilerDiecast.com. A group of people who have a major commitment to motorsports, diecast, collectibles, and all kinds of motorsports merchandise. They have grinded it out and dug in and basically created a new market that was previously dead. Because, Parker, when we were kids, we used to be able to just go to the mall and buy diecast and buy our favorite toys and race car collectibles. And now, it's almost like that stuff went away. It changed. The internet changed things. But at Spoiler Diecast, they brought it back. They pride themselves on excellent service. They have orders that ship same or next day. You get your hands on your favorite products in no time. They have free shipping on orders over $20, so you get smooth and easy, affordable shopping experience with them at SpoilerDiecast.com. They have over 1,100 unique products currently in stock. You can tell I'm still struggling right now. I have this lingering water in my throat from this. Oh my gosh, it's so annoying. But Anyways, SpoilerDiecast.com also has a brick-and-mortar location in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They're not just NASCAR focused. They have IndyCar, F1, dirt, sprint cars. They're constantly growing their offerings. So a lot of stuff. They're big fans of motorsports. We're big fans of SpoilerDiecast.com.
Love them. I also saw they are sponsoring an ARCA car, I think. So, yeah, saw that out there. Josh can correct me if I'm wrong. And whatever. Josh, find the car. I think it's the pizza one, right? That they're on?
The pizza car?
The pizza car.
It's the kid that's a pizza delivery guy that also drives?
Oh. Let me see. What do you... Okay, I'm sorry.
It was on Twitter. I saw it just literally before we were going on. So now, and once again, level of prep here. We're...
Yeah, so they're going on Brayton Laster's car.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
Okay.
On to real cars. Love that. That's epic. All right, so... And I do love that they're investing in motorsports in so many different facets like that. It's just so cool. And they're great partners of the pod. So check out Spoiler Diecast. Of course, you can check out my Diecast there as well. Landon, it's April 30th as we record this. The Indy 500, the Coke 600, and the Monaco Grand Prix are on May 26th, which means we are less than a month away from the greatest day
May.
in... What do you mean it's May?
It's already May, baby. We're in Indy.
Yeah, well, we're there.
I mean,
we're
stuff's
May time.
happening. It's May. It's
I
already
was
May.
like, wait a second. You've confused me. It's not May because it's April 30th, but it will be May tomorrow. But we are within a month of the greatest day in motorsports, and therefore you would be insane not to have entered our giveaway for the greatest day in motorsports with Pristine Auction, giving away 4 amazing items. That is a signed helmet from Jeff Gordon, who we found out at Talladega is a listener of the Money Lap, loves it. A signed ticket by Dale Earnhardt, a signed magazine poster by Johnny Rutherford, and a signed photo of a Ferrari of Charles Leclerc at Monaco signed by Charles Leclerc. That was very confusing as I said that. That's what we're giving away. prstn.co is where you can go enter that giveaway. Do that. We will be announcing those winners after the greatest day in motorsports. Also, if you go check out Pristine Auction, that's pristineauction.com, and sign up, you will get $10 off your first win if you use the code MONEYLAP. So go check that out. Go check them out. They're awesome. Also, speaking of the Indy 500, I looked and I realized that I'm in an off week this week, right? After Dover. We've got an off weekend. Saying goodbye to Shannon. She's headed to Paris for 6 months for the Olympics. But then we race Darlington, and then we have another off weekend. And that off weekend is Indy 500 qualifying weekend. I think I'm going to go to Indy.
That sounds awesome.
You heard it first. Yeah, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to represent Money Lap and say hi to all my friends. First, I'm going to check the weather. As long as the weather's going to be fine. If the weather looks iffy, I might not do it. But I got nothing better to do in my life, and there's no greater place. And I believe, personally, the greatest show in all of motorsports is Indy 500 qualifying. Nothing like it. So I want to be out there.
It's exciting.
Oh,
I can't wait.
The best. You know what's not a good show, though?
I know exactly where you're going.
AI racing. If you could see me and know the level of hatred that I would be giving this thing right now without using the words that we should be using, you know what? I'm just going to say it. Go F yourself, AI racing and AI Racing League, because that's awful. Yeah, driverless cars. So the, what is it called? The A2R League had the Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League had their first race on April 27th at the Yas Marina circuit. And it's a super formula car with some self-driving stuff, which I cannot understand how that's exciting. They have a $2.25 million prize, apparently. Whoever's giving their money for this is wildly stupid. They had Danny Kvyat there racing against them. It looks stupid. The whole thing's stupid. So just wanted to put it out there. AI racing, no.
Wait, so they're
comments?
trying to make this like a real race car driver versus the driverless cars?
They had him out there. I didn't fully see or understand what his role was, but I did see one small video of him going by like 1,000,000 miles per hour faster than the self-driving car. So I saw one other video where they were like kind of going different ways, and I was like, what is happening? But this is terrible. This is not the path forward for racing. I would love to show those whoever's doing this that the major and largest draw to any racing series, and what racing series will tell you, and those who run the marketing of racing series, is the drivers. It is not the cars. It is not. It is not the technology behind the computers. It is the drivers, the human beings. This is destined to fail, and it can't fail soon enough. So, I do have. Go ahead.
I have been anti self-driving race cars, and I am and always will be. But it would be kind of cool to see this man versus machine matchup.
Oh no! Here we go.
I'm kind of like, I don't know. It just kind of clicked for a second. That I'm like, oh, this like sort of Terminator style. It's interesting. Except if you want to see what it actually will look like, just get on iRacing and pick an AI race and turn the difficulty all the way up. Yeah. AI will get to the point where they can drive a race car better than a real driver, and that will be interesting.
And yeah, it will be frustrating, and
because a real driver will never be able to be as good as an AI driver once the AI gets sophisticated enough.
Maybe if they can, well, the weight is too high or something like that. And I think you can still trick it, and it'll have issues. Because we see with Teslas, their quote unquote self-driving, they have all sorts of issues.
Look at you. You're putting yourself in the seat. You're putting yourself in the stands of an AI race.
I'm not condoning this, but you can trick Teslas when they're in their self-driving mode, and you can mess with them as the other car if you know how to mess with them. And then the other thing you can do, or what happened is when I was driving my brother's a couple years ago, the Model 3, it went into this like bridge area on the way into New York, and it hit a shadow, and it braked really hard. I was like, whoa, what is that? Thankfully, there was no one behind me. So they're not perfect. One crazy thing in the Money Lap newsletter, which you can check out, themoneylap.com, we did ask the question, would people watch this? And 21 people said they will watch it. So they have 21 viewers, apparently. Yeah.
I mean, I would watch just to watch the wrecks.
Wow, typical race fan.
Yeah, just here for the wrecks.
Just here for the wrecks.
Let's talk the NASCAR Cup Series. We will head to the Xfinity Series after this, and as I said at the top, Ryan Truex, the winner from Dover, will be joining us. Let's start.
Says
with
he's going to be joining us, but he already said he's running late, so somehow we're going to have to fill content and talk longer.
Jeez,
because even though we're not a live show, we've scheduled our guest like it's a live show. So he's basically just going to call right in and join us. So let's
That's how we prefer.
Let's see how that goes. But let's talk
about
Cup.
I don't like to plan it out. Let's talk about Cup. So Denny Hamlin wins, holding off Kyle Larson, who had a late charge here at Dover, and thus the term Aero-Blocking became the thing that everyone wants to talk about afterwards, because essentially Denny was in the lead. Kyle started to run this outside lane and start to make time, which we can talk about the outside lane in Dover and what we really think of that. But nonetheless, Denny then did what most of us do, which is sees a faster car running a different lane, moves up in front of him, taking away that clean air, taking away that opportunity to use that lane. This stopped the run for Kyle Larson, and Kyle was frustrated afterwards, saying, I was aero-blocked, which has been around forever, as long as there's been aero. Then this caused a whole row, and we can kind of move this forward, where Kyle Busch said that basically the next-gen car can be better used as a defensive tool than an offensive tool, which was interesting. He said the aero-blocking is just so bad, everyone knows that. And he said it's really easy with the cameras to aero-block, because honestly, if they took the cameras out of the car, that could fix it. Now, Landon, you did tweet about this, and I thought that was pretty interesting, in that you brought up another side to this all, which is spotters. Where do you want to head with this discussion?
First of all, kudos to Kyle Busch. Hopefully we hear from him later here.
Yeah, he's supposed to be on the show.
Expand on these quotes. Kudos to Kyle Busch for a very nuanced and based and factual comment that was not sensationalized. It was just that the next gen is a better defensive tool than offensive tool. Like, what a great way to articulate one of the issues here with the whole aero-blocking conversation. Because it's we get lost in a lot of in the sea of what we're comparing to, and I think that's where a lot of this discourse is difficult, because when we talk about downforce, we talk about horsepower, we talk about aero being bad or good or too high or too low. Like, we're never really speaking the same language, or we're speaking from the same baseline. So, you know, when we say like, oh, aero blocking is so bad, well, it's always been bad. Well, what does that mean? Right? All those things can be true at the same time. But Kyle Busch articulated something very specific, and I think is worth saying again and paying attention to, is that with the next gen car, you don't have a lot of offensive plays. You can't when you're behind the guy, you can't pack air on his spoiler like you used to be able to, right?
Oh,
like in the previous cars.
Yep.
In the previous cars, you could, the car in front of you would cause you to be aero tight, but you as the challenger could also cause the guy in front of you to get aero loose, right? It just depended on how you were positioned and how you attacked the corner, and you could reshape your corner. You could try it from a different angle to where maybe the aero tight didn't affect you as well, and you came in from another angle, and now you made him aero loose, and that's how you could make a pass, right? But with the next gen, there's virtually no offensive leverage from the challenger, from the car behind, right? You can't. It's pulling up on someone's spoiler does not make them as aero loose, even close to as aero loose as the previous generation car. So in the guy in Kyle's position, Kyle Larson's position, chasing Denny Hamlin, Denny holds all the cards. He has all the leverage. He's in front, right? So he's leading. That's first big one right there.
Yep.
He literally has a distance advantage over Kyle Larson. But then he also has that aero advantage where he can aero block, and Larson has nothing he can do about it because he can't pull up to Denny's bumper and make him loose. So that was a really good point that Kyle said. I appreciated that.
It is fascinating. And, you know, I've seen Brian Blackford, who's a friend of the pod, many out there may know from the sim racing world. I saw him commenting that there, you know, wasn't enough ability to get people aero loose. And I was like, yeah, I get that, whatever. But the way you just conceptualize this offensive tool versus defensive, it's 100% right. Like, you can't the forever stock car racing has been that the car with more speed getting towards the other car would then have the ability to do something, whether it's in the end, the last resort, use the bumper, right? But this car, you can't even do that, really.
And so, and let me add to that. It's like, because you know my crusade against bumpers that line up.
Yeah.
Right? Matching bumpers. Well, that actually plays into it as well, because the car behind, but before the bumpers lined up, the car behind had a ton of leverage over the car in front because the bumpers didn't line up. So if I ran into the back of you, it literally would spin you out. Yeah. Would just lift your rear tires off the ground, and you would have to chase your car up the track. Now, I mean, the car behind still has some leverage because literally hitting someone is not easy to hang on to if you're the one getting hit. But because the bumpers line up and everything is so rigid, I mean, go tune into any short track race or any of these races, and these guys just can pound into each other, and the car in front can bear it, right? Can take the hit. And so
100%.
Therein lies the leverage in the car in front, right? In the defender. So, you know, those are all really interesting points that Kyle made from the aero side. We talked about here from the bumpers lining up. Ultimately, Kyle ended up saying it's really easy with the cameras and the car to aero block. Honestly, if they took the cameras out of the car, that could fix it. When Bowman was behind me, I'm literally staring in my camera. I don't know if Larson said that or Kyle Busch, but
Busch
said that. So it's hard to put an absolute like what he said that would fix it. I'm not necessarily going to agree with that. We don't know what would fix, but what I am on board with is getting rid of the cameras and getting rid of the mirrors in these cars. I think that would help a ton if we we're trying to balance safety and performance. So I don't know what role the mirrors and cameras play in safety, and we would have to consider that. But if we just threw safety out for just a second and just focused on race quality and performance, taking the cameras out and the mirrors out is a no-brainer. And then what I tweeted that caused a bunch of people to get upset.
I was going to say, go on.
Is the next step of that. And again, I'm putting safety aside for just a second. And I'm going to say, for the sake of racing quality and like the purity of racing quality, no cameras, no mirrors, and no spotters. Right? And now you have a very pure form of racing, drivers, cars, your senses, your surroundings. That would be very interesting to see at that level, right?
Yeah.
Dirt car racing pulls it off pretty well. I mean, even sports car racing to some degree pulls it off pretty well.
Yeah.
They have cameras,
yeah.
But I mean,
super speedways would be interesting.
Think classic sports car racing, though.
Yeah,
and you don't even have to go that far. I mean, they haven't had cameras for that long.
No, you're right. I mean,
right.
The spotters thing at this point, especially in super speedways, I mean, it has changed the game so massively that the spotters is, you listen to any spotter and it's go low, go low, go low, go high, high lane, forward back, six back, low, 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 low. It's like it's just directing you as a driver. And I mean, that's the level you have to be at. Now, I'm not calling them out. I just think that's fascinating, to point out. I will say that I think you could go as far as to get rid of cameras and have mirrors and no spotters. And that would be probably stock car racing in its purest form.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get rid of this. And I don't know how you do that. How do you police a spotter versus even a crew chief on a pit box could be like, hey, you run the high lane. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've had this debate with somebody before, and I feel like I cannot remember the outcome of it. But I had this debate with somebody before, and I know that we settled on the most sensible solution to this was that we need spotters. And I'm fine with that, and I understand that. My goal of the debate at the time, and my goal of this debate now, is to explore this idea of how could, if you really wanted to, how could you draw a line in the sand to the limit to which the spotters could contribute to their communication to the driver as it pertains to competitive performance-related communication, right? Mm-hmm. If we said the spotters are there for safety, right? To notify the drivers when there's safety vehicles on the track, when there's a caution, when there's a crash, things like that, right? Now, what's funny is I said the word safety just in my tweet, and it wasn't some big, huge bunch of tweets, but there's just a couple tweets, and spotters chimed in, and they actually positioned themselves, some of the spotters that replied, that their spotting technique of avoiding cars from passing their driver is a safety thide, and I'm like, wow, that is an interesting.
Avoid being side by side because side by side causes wrecks.
Avoid being side by side for my driver is the safest. Is the safest place for everybody, and it was that's a really not an untruthful thing to say. Not sure that's great for racing, but you're not wrong. That is safety, I guess. But again, if you could. And maybe I know we actually talked about doing this and then we didn't, but maybe we should get Freddie or Brett or one of these, spotters that likes to talk. They all like to talk. But one of these spotters that likes to talk and really try to push them to have this nuanced discussion of what would it look like if we just said, okay, you guys can no longer contribute to competition, right? It's only safety. What would happen? What kind of race would we see? Right?
Yeah.
I don't think that we'd have to fast track this conversation to spotters. I think that step one, it would be interesting to just. Well, hang on. I'm kind of unraveling this in real time. would you get rid of mirrors and cameras but keep spotters, or would you get rid of spotters and keep mirrors like you suggested earlier? I don't know.
Let us know if there's someone out there listening that has a thought on that. Let us know at Friends at the Money Lap for our special 1-year anniversary episode next year or next week. Where you
maybe we should talk about that. Maybe next week we'll get spotters on. Let's talk about since we're having a unique format next week, we'll have some fans, chime in. Maybe we'll get a spotter on. We'll talk to Ryan Truex here in a little bit about it. It's an interesting conversation.
I just like to say I love my spotter, Brandon McReynolds. Thank you very much. I always have to put that in.
Landon, I was hearing you saying like the idea of like talking about caution out on track and safety vehicles out on track. What does the spotter see that a crew chief couldn't already do? If you eliminate the spotter and the crew chief still had communication to the driver, he can provide information to green flag pit stop, stuff like that, counting them in.
The spotter can see the whole racetrack. So safety vehicles on the backstretch. There's a car parked on the apron. Yeah. There's a piece of debris up high.
Got it.
So there is a lot of communication there.
And under yellow, especially if you're the lucky dog and you're having to come around at speed and try to unlap yourself and that sort of thing, and there's safety vehicles, like they'll call it out and you can't see around the corner. And so there's times, and then also just in the case of catching the field, sometimes you're booking it and your spotter's like, hey, they're off turn 2, they're still there. Oh, okay, slow it down. So it's like there is many safety aspects in that sense.
And one thing to contribute to that, because I'll prolong this conversation, that's fine. It's the main topic.
We don't have to.
Dover's kind of boring, but so I will say that, especially in the recent years where I think NASCAR has done a good job and our broadcast partners do a good job of this with their highlight shows during the week and during the broadcast, the spotter content between spotter and driver communication and team communication in general, and the passion that the spotters bring to the radio is good content, right? It's good for storylines. It's storytelling.
Alex Bowman and Kevin Hamlin this weekend.
Well, whatever it is. I mean, yeah, that was this weekend, and it's also like what the technique and the skill that the spotters in the last decade have developed. Is amazing, right? Like the shorthand that we use and the very unique terminology, and it's almost like a foreign language. It's totally unfamiliar to someone that doesn't know what's going on, and it's fascinating, right? And so it's really cool. I don't want to suggest that that I'm just throwing to just throw that out. That I'm saying that this is that it's all just worthless, right? It's just interesting to me when you hear things from Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch, and granted they're frustrated, they didn't win, they didn't get to accomplish what they were trying to accomplish on Sunday. But when it comes to those things, I do wonder, would the racing be better? Could the racing be better? Mm-hmm. If the spotter played a different role?
It's a fascinating question. It's sort of the same thing of, I think what you're talking about with the spotter language and where they've gotten to the skill level, I'm telling you, if you take a car that's at the front of a field at the Super Speedway, especially in Xfinity right now, and with our package and the way we can still get huge runs, and you match that up perfectly what the car is doing, it will blow your mind when you listen to the spotter being like, low, 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 top, 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 bottom, middle lane's going. And it's like, it's unbelievable when you really break it down. And when that driver and spotter are in sync, it is a really beautiful thing to watch. So it would vastly change that. Super Speedway racing, I think, would be one of the largest affected by far if you change.
What does Super Speedway look? What does Super Speedway racing look like if the driver didn't have a spotter?
It'd be nuts.
The picture.
It'd be nuts. But
is that
totally
that a good thing or a bad thing? Would it be good for racing or bad?
I don't know. I think good for racing. I think it would be good for the show.
I think it would be good.
Yeah.
I think it'd be less organized.
Oh, massively. You would never know how many are in your lane. It would be wild. absolutely wild at times. Especially late in a race, late for the stage, that sort of thing would just be anarchy, insane. And I think
I don't know.
Would be
One could only dream.
We
can move on.
Let's put a bow on this real quick. I just want one last thing. I think the amazing part, just to go back to the conversation we're having about the offensive tool versus defensive tool, the next gen, it hit me. What we always have to remember is this car is a departure from everything we've ever known as a stock car. And it feels like every week something comes up that's like, this is how it always was in stock car racing, and we've discovered this car. It's not now, right? And it's just like, that's what this sport is going through, and it's going to continue to happen. And,
are we just the grouchy old men?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. We're going to find out, what the fans think as we go through this, but it's changed stock car racing, and it's changed the show. One thing it did give us was parity. Up until this year, where the only car that has not been Hendrick or Joe Gibbs / Joe Gibbs affiliated to win this year in 11 races was Trackhouse at Atlanta with Suarez, which almost didn't happen. So
that brings
we have lost
an interesting
a bit of parity.
point. That brings an interesting point, because I predicted before the next gen even really came out, before it started, that we would see the best parity we'd ever seen in Cup, which we did, but it would only get better, which it's not.
No.
If you're basing it off of this year. The parity is getting worse.
It's getting worse.
I thought the parity would get better because the car, as long as the car doesn't change and the technology doesn't change, they would just kind of reach this what am I trying to say? Diminishing return.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Where, like, part of the reason I thought that parity was such a struggle in the previous generation of race cars is because the teams were constantly building new cars and constantly developing. So the teams with the best development budgets and the best development teams could continue to develop and get steps ahead. Where this car sort of, the theory was that it would eliminate development, and you would get to a point where, like, the Xfinity and the Truck Series is, where the parity is pretty decent, because the rules just haven't changed. The cars haven't changed. So, I don't know.
It struck me just the other day that literally, because 2311 is a Joe Gibbs affiliate, which won Talladega, the only non-Joe Gibbs or Hendrick car to win was Trackhouse. And it's like, we're 11 races in, so we are 1/3 through the season, basically. We're staring another, Joe Gibbs, Hendrick, just domination in the face at the moment, which is unbelievable. When you factor how the cars are, so similar, apparently. So it's gonna be wild to see. I would love to see the summer light up and start to see some more teams winning, because that was the coolest part about this car when it came out, was all the winners. Before we move into the Xfinity Series, Kyle Larson did respond to me on Twitter this week when I saw that the bus stop chicane had been changed at Watkins Glen, and I was like, "Oh no, Watkins Glen, what have you done?" They flattened out the curb basically, and then added some of these turtle curbs for other race series. Larson responded that he had a mouthpiece in last year, which the NASCAR's been doing this across many drivers. They've also had some drivers take sort of these ingestibles that can tell you the heat of your core temp and that sort of thing, which a lot of guys were doing in Xfinity last year, which is why we have those slits in the back glass this year, because of the heat. And he was wearing a mouthpiece which registers G data and all sorts of stuff like that. And basically, he said something needed to be done. What was there before was not safe for the brain. Hopefully this is better. And what it showed was these massive G spikes in vertical spikes through that section. Which there was those amazing shots of the next gen car from the back going through there and hopping through and all that such. But what that means is it wasn't really good for the driver. So they have changed and reprofiled that corner to help with those massive G spikes that the drivers were experiencing through that section. I don't know. Interesting. Maybe a product of this car, once again, changing stock car racing.
So they're trying to make it to where you can't shortcut the bus stop?
No, you still shortcut it. Well, it depends if they leave those turtles up or not, right? Which would, yes, if those are there, you're not going to shortcut. But if they take those away, it's just very flat now. it's not going to be the same massive hump that you'd hop over, sort of thing.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean that's you hate to see it. Obviously you don't want the drivers. I don't know. You hate to see it. They're redesigning the track based on this car that is like so rigid and tough on everything.
yeah.
That's a pretty iconic bus stop for at least stock car racing. It's been pretty amazing watching some drivers like AJ Allmendinger and Marcus Ambrose, Dario Franchitti go through that bus stop in a stock car in pretty amazing ways through the years.
I know. I loved it, too.
It'll change.
So much fun.
Things change. And you know what would be interesting? What I hope? I hope you can't shortcut it. I hope if anything they changed it, they slow it down to where it's more of has some more defined
Bigger
turn.
braking zone.
Yeah, bigger
Totally
braking zone. I think
totally
it would be a little
changes
bit
that.
better.
That would be better. Why not? Let's do it. I'm in. It'd be a whole other passing zone, way more so than it used to be because you have like an outbraking, whereas before you just had to get the leverage to be like, and then it was like that duel of who was going to do it, right? So it was whoever was going to get through. We mentioned we wanted to head to the Xfinity Series. That's Everything Cup. Before we talk about my race, you know what we should do, Landon? We should talk to the guy who won the Xfinity Series race at Dover, and for the second time in a row won it in an totally different fashion. None other than Ryan Truex, who's not a junior, has joined Money Lap here, the winner of the Xfinity Series race at Dover this past weekend, my man. Congratulations. I do want to say that I did text you when we were lamenting our qualifying positions on Friday. You could still win this race. I was kind of hoping that you'd like be close and I would win it, but you did prove you could win it. Well done.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Always nice to see you, Landon.
It's good to see you, buddy. I was just so proud that you won. I felt like I won because I picked you to win.
It was a team.
I sent him a screenshot. I sent him a screen. Yes, it was a team win. I sent him a screenshot of our group chat where we make our picks for Money Lap, and I just said Truex Senior, Truex Junior, new guys. I only got one of those right, but
You were looking pretty good in the Cup race on Sunday as well.
Yeah.
I know.
Ryan
Parker.
So last year you dominated this race. Literally, led the most laps, absolutely never relinquished it whatsoever. This time, though, was entirely different because you and I started near each other. We ran near each other at the beginning of the race.
We did.
And I feel like when I looked at the, we get all those reports talking about the speed of your car and that sort of thing. You were the 10th ranked car on speed, but you won it. How the hell did you do that?
Well, I just got lucky, I think, honestly. When it rained and we rode around double file forever and picked literally all of the rubber that was on the track, all of it. We picked all of it up. There was none left. Because we ran around double file for 10, 15 laps, which you don't ever really do that at Dover. So we picked all the rubber up, and my car was way better when the track was green. And yeah, it was perfect for me, and it was all short runs, which is what I needed. Because we got my car free enough where I could get through the middle and be aggressive. I was obviously pretty loose watching the race back because I ran into a lot of people when they would hang on my door. So I was loose for sure, but we were good on the short run. And honestly, my restarts were my strong point, like through the gearbox. Didn't have a lot of wheel spin. Felt like I was pushing every restart. And it worked out. Got the bottom lane when it mattered. And it does feel really good to win with a car that didn't dominate versus last year. Anyone, you could say anyone can get in the best car and go win, but to get in the, like you said, 10th best car and win was definitely a proud moment for sure.
Did you feel like, I'm kind of zooming in on like one specific thing that I saw at the end of the race, those last couple restarts. I mean, they were the defining restarts that had the leader turnover and where you got your opportunity. And the leader kept choosing the outside.
Yep.
And I could see where, and I've raced at Dover, like being on the outside in 1 and 2, especially on a restart, if you're the control car, should be an easy clear, right? And you clear yourself down the backstretch, then you're usually clear by going into turn 3. But both Austin and Carson or Quapple did not get a very good launch from the outside. And it was like they didn't take advantage of that angle that you need to have. They launched
low
with the same angle that the bottom car has, which is like you're giving up your whole advantage.
Exactly.
They're going uphill. They're launched, and they both spun their tires.
Yeah.
I was curious what you would do or what you saw there.
Statistically, looking back, coming into this race, we favored top all day. Every choose, we favored top because top has less wheel spin. You can get a better launch. The bottom, if you get wheel spin, you do not get your tires back. Like, you spin them until you're in fourth gear, it feels like.
That was me on that 70-lap tire restart.
Yeah, I saw you pretty quick. That looked fun for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Went well.
Yeah. So I mean, we favored top, and it was interesting because the 21, or I don't know who was leading. The 88 was on the bottom, and he spun his tires really, really bad. And I think that's what made him think I need to choose top, so I don't do that. Because if I do that, I'm going to lose the race before turn one. So I think that's what he was thinking. But then, like you said, the next restart, the 21 took the top, and he spun the tires, and the 18 got the lead for a corner. I think he cleared him off of 2, if I'm not wrong, because the 21 just got wheel spin. And yeah, I think it's like you said, it's the angle. But I don't know if it was because we picked up so much rubber that the lanes were more even than they usually are, or what. Because earlier in the race, I felt like the bottom was terrible. Every restart, it'd get stacked up, and the top would always roll for the most part. So, I don't know. It changed a lot, which I feel like there's some places, like even Darlington's like that, when the rubber buildup gets high, the lanes feel like they kind of switch back and forth a little bit. But Dover, I think a lot of it has to do with just the way you pick it up. And like you said, the angle of attack. I tried to hold him out so I could get higher and get straighter earlier, as opposed to trying to go uphill out of the corner coming into the box, which probably helped him too, because it got him more at the right angle. But it was enough for me to at least get somewhat of a rolling start and somewhat of a launch into the box, where I felt like I was kind of pointing more downhill than coming up out of the banking.
Right.
And I wonder your opinion is on this, but just watching some of the races the last couple of years there, and even Larson struggled on the restart in the Cup race that lost him the lead to Hamlin on the top. It's like if you don't, as that outside car, command or get the leverage off of turn 2, that bottom car can then have a huge amount of leverage heading off into backstretch. If you're that outside car there for whatever reason. Yeah. Even though, aero-wise, you'd think they're going to get loose, that sort of thing. And I think that's where Carson and some of those outside guys, if they don't get that launch that they get from the outside that they should get, then they're so vulnerable going into 1 and 2 for someone like yourself who's, there's no rubber down, so the lanes are equal, and you've got the leverage coming out of 2, and they're sunk. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Last year, I lost the lead in both lanes on restarts for basically your same reasons.
It's a good way to lose your confidence.
I spun the tires on the inside once and got cleared off of 2. And another time, I didn't get clear off 2 on the top, and they did exactly what I did to Carson. They latched onto my left rear, dragged me back, and drove off into 3 and just cleared me. And, they got me up at lane 2.5 where I was just tight and had to lift. So honestly, I used that past experience of losing the lead to kind of decide how I wanted to try to get the lead. But I knew it was super important, to be at least at his quarter off 2. And it's crazy how much you can drag him back. It's almost like you gain a good arc into the corner by grabbing their quarter panel and holding it as late as possible. And the way you pull off of them, it almost slows them down as they're entering the corner, which if you go back and look, he almost cleared me off 2. and I got to his quarter really not until like 2/3 down the straightaway, and it parked him immediately. And when I pulled off of him, I was already, I surged forward as I was going down the banking. It's like going down in that hole, like downhill like that, gains you speed while they're just, slower way around. And at that point, I just could drive in deeper.
And you're controlling when they can time their turn.
Exactly.
And like they don't know when you're going to turn into the corner, right? You're pinching them up against the their entry of the corner, and they're like, they don't know when they're going to lift or when they're, the best thing to do in that situation if you're them is like, you have to choose between, do you just absolutely try to crowd this person and chase you down to the bottom, or do you just commit to running like the extreme top or something, because you, by doing what you said, you completely control their entry, and that's very, very smart.
Did you send it down into 3?
I did.
On that moment? Yeah.
You sent it? You did send
I shipped it in there. And I, like I said, I was very loose. I was very loose in all week. Yep. So when I did that and latched his quarter panel and yanked off of it, I was pretty out of control into 3. Luckily, I was able to hold on to it. 1 and 2 on the restart. I nearly did what Austin did the restart before. I got really, really loose, and I'm not sure if he heard it and moved up, or if he lifted when he heard me lift. But I thought for sure off 2 he was going to clear me because I was so free.
There is no more of a your pants feeling when you're the outside car in the middle of turn 1 and 2 at Dover, and you can hear the guy underneath you going wop 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 wop.
Yeah, that was me.
That is very true.
Like, oh god, we're both dead.
Yeah, you're just waiting for it. At that point, you just go as high as you possibly can to get away from him.
Yep.
Yeah, but it worked out. So
exactly.
Yeah, I was free, but I sent it, and it worked out.
Is the Xfinity car not the best car?
It's so good. I went back and just watched my in car, and like, they sound like high RPM. I'm spinning the tires on restarts. I'm part throttle, like onto the straightaway late in a run. That long run, I went all the way to the top, like in the gray, because I was so free just to try to find something, moving around. Those last few restarts that was pure stock car racing. The way we were,
that's good.
Just sliding around, slide jobs, Austin and Sheldon and Justin were all playing bumper tag, but, not wrecking each other. It was a very entertaining race for sure.
It's awesome. I love it. It is just the best.
Imagine if we could do that, but with 300 more horsepower.
Oh,
yeah.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
You must be a listener to this podcast because that comes up often.
And then just put all the Cup drivers in them. And imagine how good.
Race on Sundays instead of Saturdays.
Yeah, imagine how good that would
be. Wow. I wonder what that looks like.
Yeah.
Huh. Some would say it was the Cup Series at one point. That's wonderful. I did watch your onboard, by the way, after the race. Because I saw it on YouTube. I found it. And I noticed many of the similar things. And one more question just on the restart stuff. We can move on. But I'm just curious. Carson, inexperienced, young. We don't run around. He ran Martinsville, and that was it. Do you feel like, was there a little bit of advantage to you? Did you have like a little bit of like, I got this guy. Like, he's toast. He doesn't know how to do this.
I don't know. I mean, that long run, he drove through like the field. He was so fast.
Yep.
And his car was so good wrapping the bottom. And the way he took the lead, while those two were battling was pretty impressive. So I don't think he he did anything wrong, honestly, or got intimidated or anything like that. I think I just had the right lane when it mattered, honestly. So no, I didn't think that because I knew how good his car was. But it is funny. It's kind of, when was the last time a 20-year-old almost won his first race at Dover and finished second? Some would say it was 2012 and it was me. So,
I was gonna say,
it kind of came.
I knew this trivia.
It came full circle a little bit. It felt like. So I did feel bad because I took it, and I know how that feels. But you know, I feel like at this point, you know, I've earned my my right to go for these wins.
Absolutely,
100%. Yeah,
I think that it was where I felt bad for him a little bit was, which, you know, he inherited he didn't inherit the lead, but he earned the lead through the attrition of, you know, the different track conditions and the fumbled restarts. And then that's ultimately kind of how he lost the lead, was like he just didn't execute the restart as the control car like he needed to. But that wasn't because of him being a rookie. It wasn't his fault. I think that, like you said a few minutes ago, you guys were just on a completely different track than you had been an hour before that. And
it changed a lot.
Yeah, nobody.
I think it was
just
probably
like nobody knew what to expect. Honestly, you know, we were all just guessing on the fly on what was going to work and what wasn't. So, you know, it's anybody could have been in that situation.
Yep.
And it's a shame it didn't just rain when I was in fourth. So, you know, what it is what it is. I think you know, we didn't quite have a car that was as able to be up there, but we did find ourselves in that position when it was about to rain. And I was like, just rain. I was like, I'm good here. I'll take a fourth place on the day.
Yeah.
Oh man. So what's this mean for you? What's the next race for Ryan Truex? You're doing this part-time deal again for Joe Gibbs. Does this add any races? Start the discussions?
I don't know.
What do you think?
I hope it starts discussions.
Yeah.
Right now, my next race is Portland, so I've got a month off, and go road course racing at a track I've never been to.
So I was 3/10 faster in the field in practice there last year.
Yeah. What
happened
way. In the race at the end?
You know, you'd make a little lunge. You know, just a slight outbraking move that you outbrake yourself occasionally. Mm-hmm. And when you outbrake yourself, you're gonna find yourself not beating the cars you were trying to beat.
Well, so, you were beating them for a second, I think.
I had it, yeah. I mean, if they just stopped the race there, you know, if we could have just got like a lightning delay at that moment, right then and there, then it would have been perfect. So, awesome. Dude, congratulations. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Thanks for having
me,
guys. I appreciate it.
Wait, last thing, I saw a photo. Was this from this year or last year? You had the trophy out at a party, the Miles the Monster. Did he have any drinks?
That was this year, yeah. Yep.
That was this year. Mm-hmm. Okay. I wasn't invited.
That's him right here.
I'm just, yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, look at
last year
was watch on video.
Downstairs or something, I think.
Did he behave himself?
Yeah, he was all right. Yeah. He felt a little rough the next day, but aside from that, he was in good spirits.
Awesome. Congrats, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ryan. Talking Xfinity, Landon, before we move on to the open wheel world. I just got my hand stuck in my chair here. Open wheel world. First and foremost, my race, I ended up 12th. As you heard there, talking to Ryan, my team made a great call. Not me. They made a great call to stay out when the rain was hitting, which put us in 4th. If it had continued raining, we finished 4th. We ended up getting back to 12th, and I think if we ended up not doing that and pitting, we finished probably 8th, 6th to 8th. So it wasn't a huge loss for a big opportunity. So we fought really, really, really loose race car. Some other things I know we can do differently. So not our best day.
I was a little surprised that you. I was a little surprised that you didn't make it very much farther. On those tires, but
at the end of the race,
is what it is.
Like, you're saying, well, so what happened was I just kept, you talk about the restart lanes, I kept picking the wrong one, and something would happen in my damn lane, and I'd lose two. So, like, we lost one of the restarts. I went back to the bottom because it was moving way better for that section where we were, and someone, like, checked up or something stupid happened, and I lost, like, 3 rows, and then the caution came out immediately, and it was like, So it just killed us, and we should have finished. Probably still should have got to 8th to 10th, and we just we got screwed there. So, like the 91, Kyle Weatherman was doing a great job in his stuff, and he finished 8th, and he was beside me when all that happened, and he was on the outside, and it put him like way ahead of us on the next restart. We couldn't get back in such short laps. So, one last thing in Xfinity, I just saw the numbers. 883,000 people watched the Xfinity Series race at Dover this past weekend, which is up 31% from last year, 674,000 last year. So, which was a little bit rain delayed.
Gosh, Xfinity ratings are just on the rise.
Crushing it. Let's talk open wheel and Formula One, which is racing in Miami this coming weekend to celebrate all the F1 world has been descending upon New York City, not Miami. So, Logan Sargent and Leah Block were on Good Morning America and a couple of those shows in New York City. You had the big thing, though, was Mercedes and WhatsApp, which announced their sponsorship earlier this year, did a show run in Manhattan. And Lewis Hamilton ran an F1 car on the streets of Manhattan, did some donuts, big show run, kind of cool. They also announced a new emoji that is for WhatsApp, which is their color race car, kind of like the emoji we use for the Money Lap. But it's now black and teal for Petronas, just like their race car. So pretty wild that they got that done and got to run through New York. They
More
also
examples that F1 is so much cooler than we are.
They are just so much damn cool. Why are they so cool? People, tell us. Write to friends at the Money Lab. Let us know why you think they are so much cooler and why others think they're so much cooler. I don't get it, but here we are. They did get to also take over the Empire State Building to announce that emoji. So they had it on the Empire State Building and had the colors change. Yeah, if you ever want to know how much money they're making just compared to 5 or 6 years ago, they took over the Empire State Building. Case in point. They're also coming to New York because New York is the best. I don't know. That's what I think.
Yeah.
The big news, though, in F1, as we rumble towards Miami, that's taking over the airwaves. Adrian Newey, the renowned designer at Red Bull Racing, is trying to get out, using lawyers to get out of his contract to be able to head to another team in 2025. He does have a non-compete, but he thinks he can negotiate an exit, and this all stems from his unhappiness over the Christian Horner situation, apparently. I'm just going to keep saying apparently.
Do you think he could be going to Ferrari?
I absolutely think he could be going to Ferrari. I know I had a facetious tweet where I said basically his three options were Aston Martin for a stake in the team, which Aston Martin is investing heavily, and he has been rumored to go there, and that is why maybe Fernando Alonso stayed. But Lawrence Stroll is going crazy. So that's interesting. The other one I put was Ferrari for a gargantuan amount of money, possibly, and to be with Lewis Hamilton, which would be insane. And then the last one I said was Audi, where they would probably have to give him the car company of Audi to get him to go there. So we'll see. But I do believe it's definitely Aston Martin Ferrari, but I think he could be going to Ferrari. I think so. Could you imagine?
Do you think that he could make changes that quickly that would affect, like, what kind of timeline are we on with Lewis at Ferrari? Do we need to see results instantly? Do we
no
3
3
process,
years,
a 5-year process?
Years. We're talking a 3-year process. 3-year process. Year 2 into year 3, he makes a massive difference, finds what they need, boom, and even halfway, I would say through the first year, because if you know that's happening, you can get him. You would definitely hold off your development till he can be in there doing it, right? So what if you saved your budget cap and manipulate your budget cap to be later in the year, so on and so forth? I don't know. I think there's all sorts of things, but the guy is a wizard. You'd want him looking at your stuff before you spend any money. So I would say, without a doubt, he can make that second half of 2025, if he's allowed to leave Red Bull, he can make a difference. He, especially if he leaves now. I mean, if he's able to get there now, he can absolutely make a difference. But year 2, 3, definitely, that's where the dominance kicks in, and it's goodbye. So we'll see. That's fascinating. Speaking of Audi, Nico Hulkenberg has announced he will be going to stake F1 Sauber, which will eventually become Audi. So he is leaving Haas, though. Yeah,
interesting.
The end of the year. Sources out there say Ollie Behrman, who filled in for Carlos Sainz when he had his appendix removed at Singapore, or no, not Singapore, Saudi Arabia, right? Saudi Arabia. He Jeddah. He is rumored to be the one to replace Nico at Haas. So that makes total sense. He's in the Ferrari development program, the academy, as they call it, and they are a Ferrari affiliate. So that makes sense. We'll see if it happens. Landon,
yes,
in IndyCar though, David Malukas. Need your opinion on this. He gets hurt in the offseason riding a mountain bike. It's turning out to be a longer injury than they foresaw. There was a clause basically in his contract that if he couldn't be in the car for more than 4 races, they could remove him. He has now been removed and let go from McLaren. Fair or not?
I got to say fair.
Really?
I mean, if you can't do your job, you can't do your job.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, it's. Yeah. I know we got to be fit to drive race cars, and I'm. It's pretty well known that I've cycled and ridden bikes, and hell, I got hit by a car on a bike. I've taken risks
myself. Excuse me? Go on. Did not know about this. What are we doing?
This is like back. This is before the 2014 Daytona 500. Got hit by a car during Speed Weeks in Daytona.
What? I was there. I don't remember this.
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't make a big deal about it because I didn't want to end up getting sidelined. It was Speed Weeks. I had to I qualified into the Daytona 500 with like black eyes, and
oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it looked horrible. Did I not tweet anything about this or anything either?
I don't think this might be the first. This might be the first anyone's ever heard that you got hit by a car on a bicycle.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. We'll have to dive into that sometime.
Okay. Yeah. That's man. Now that just made me realize that that maybe I haven't shared this with anybody. Well, I mean, not that I didn't share it with anybody. My team knew.
Yeah.
And this was. I got checked out and everything, but this was before NASCAR's like real stringent concussion protocol. So, fortunately or unfortunately, I wasn't like super inspected. I was cleared at the. I got a doctor's clearance from the. I went to the emergency room. I got a doctor's clearance from the emergency room that I was all good to go and.
Wow.
Told NASCAR.
There's a couple of articles about you getting hit by a car and some quotes.
Okay,
so
good. So it's
okay. So it is out there.
I was gonna say I didn't think it was like a secret. I mean, I wasn't like hiding from it. I'm pretty sure that I didn't take. That I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna draw a ton of unnecessary attention to myself over this. But anyways, I don't know. I'm not trying to be tough or cold about it, but I don't know. If you can't do your job, you can't do your job, right? And that's probably the risk that we're all taking when we ride bikes and cycle and.
So I'm gonna put it out there. I have not snowboarded since the day I signed my big machine contract back in October of 2022. Haven't done it because I know, and I was around all this, and it's like you can't race, you don't get paid. And I was like, that sounds like terrible. So I'll just quit that for a bit.
And for David's sake here, the driver that's getting let out of his contract, is it fair? Is it fair that he's getting let out of his contract? Yes or no? I don't know. But at the end of the day, if he's hurt and can't drive a race car, whether he has a contract or not, he's a young, up-and-coming race car driver that's missing an opportunity because of mountain biking.
Yep.
And so it doesn't matter if he has a contract or not. Right? To him personally, 100%. He probably regrets that day. And that is a tough thing. I'm not trying to cast judgment on him. I'm more speaking of it from an empathetic perspective that, like, man, I really wanted to go skiing several years ago. 16, 17, I think we went, or no, 2015. It was kind of in a big contract year, transitioning from Hillman Racing to Front Row. I had just signed a deal with Front Row. We were on vacation in Colorado with our family. My wife would not let me go skiing. absolutely, positively not let me go. I tried like hell. I wanted to go. And she's like, absolutely not. Everything you just put me through, getting this new contract and your season with Hillman, and we were so excited to get signed with Front Row. You're like, you are not skiing and getting hurt. And then she's like, take your new deal, enjoy our week in Aspen, and you can watch everybody else ski. And, and
go read a book in the lodge.
Go read a book. The only thing I was allowed to do is I went skinning up the mountain, and then I rode the lift down because I wanted to do something so bad. So I put skins on. I don't know if anybody's a skier. I don't know if you know what that is. Skins are like these velvety, material that you can put on the bottom of the skis, and you actually can climb up a mountain with skis on.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Because they kind of have some grip to them. So I skinned up Aspen Mountain all the way. It took like 3 hours. I did it in the morning. I was super fit at the time. And then when I got to the top of the mountain, I'm like, hey, I want to ride the lift down or the gondola down. And they were like, you want to ride it down? And you have skis? And I was like, yeah.
Like, you don't get it. I'm not allowed.
They're like, this guy, I don't know who this guy is, but he's doing it backwards. I was going up the mountain,
no, that's how it
riding
works,
the gondola down.
Excuse me, sir. We actually have an insane asylum this way, and you can head
going
over
the wrong
here.
way.
Yeah, we would not ship you back down to civilization. You obviously are not fit for that sort of thing. That's actually
I texted
pretty.
Jimmy Johnson about it at the time and was like, yeah, I just rode the gondola down. He's like, well, you're supposed to ski back down. I was like, yeah, but that wasn't skiing.
We're in different stages of our career, Jimmy. We're not quite there.
I did go skiing, though, in 18, I can't remember, 19, I don't know. One of those years, 20, I can't remember. One of those years I did go back, and I told my wife, I'm like, you're letting me ski.
Yeah.
I was like, if I get hurt, I'll retire. She's like, okay, I'll take that.
I'll retire. Oh, man. I know. I've been the same dilemmas many a times. I've gone to ski mountains multiple times and not snowboarded or skied at all. So that is the race car driver way. And I think we should point out that unlike other sports, right, which is these normal, baseball, football, whatever, they get
Racing
guarantees.
takes 2 balls.
Yeah, it takes 2 balls.
Were you going to say something else?
Yeah, well, I was going to go that way, too. No, they have guarantees in their contract. Race car drivers are independent contractors. There is no guarantees. There is no you are at the mercy of, the idea that you can be in that, do your job or not. And that is just the nature of the game. And until someone changes it, it will forever be that way. So
I would rather not. Here, maybe let's wrap a bow around that conversation. I would rather not put my destiny in somebody else's hands to determine whether I can come back with a contract or not. And obviously, on a bike, I don't know if that came out the right way, but
I don't think it did. What did you mean by that?
Well, it's like we're sitting here saying driver's hurt, and is it fair or not fair that he got kicked out of his contract? And it's like, I don't know, why put it in somebody else's hands? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, why get hurt? Why?
Yeah, exactly.
And I took those risks on a bicycle plenty of times in my career, and I was happy to do that at the time. But if I would have truly gotten hurt on a bike and sidelined, that would not have been good.
No, it'd be a tough time.
It wouldn't have been worth a single mile that I rode on a bike.
No, I stick to running. I got rid of my road bike. I haven't ridden it in 2 years. I had one little close call, and I was like, no, I don't need to be doing this. I don't like this thing. Nope. In the IndyCar race, the longtime Barber icon, Georgina, fell from the pedestrian bridge in the middle of the race and actually got clipped by a car coming by. One of the wildest scenarios ever. Any times in a race car that you can remember having something weird get in your way or fall that you noticed on the track?
No, but I didn't find this as funny as anybody on the internet found it from start to finish. The fact that there's a mannequin hanging from a bridge to begin with, I don't think is very funny.
Barber Motorsport Park has weird stuff like that.
So
by the way.
I don't find that funny. And then the whole thing falling on the track with Indy cars going 200 miles an hour, not funny. I just was not, did not humor me one bit.
All right. Wow. Debbie.
Sorry, I'm like a total curmudgeon on this thing, but I saw that happen and was like, Oh my God, I am not impressed.
Is there something from your past we need to bring up about your dating past? If there's
mannequins or
mannequins? Do we need to dive a little deeper here?
I don't know. I didn't find it funny.
Who goes the wrong way on ski mountains has some issue with mannequins.
I felt a little bit better about it. I guess that like there were other drivers cracking about it, So it's like, okay, well, for those drivers that are there and on the racetrack and saw this human, shape of a human being fall from the track while they're racing down the straightaway. Okay,
that is.
If they find that funny, then maybe
that I found
can,
terrifying. By the way,
maybe I can lighten up a little bit. But I saw it happen. And I saw a car go by, and then I saw all the tweets and all the people like cracking up, and I'm like, no, that's not funny. I was just like, not funny at all.
Posted it where he swerves. He swerves. Yeah. He says there's a woman on the track.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's not. Yeah. I saw that, and I'm like, yeah,
that's
okay.
terrifying.
I'm not fun. I'm not laughing.
Definitely. I just want to tell one story. That is, I was testing out once again the proving grounds for Chrysler, doing like 210 mile an hour at the time on that 5 mile oval. And I remember going through the corners where you could, if you were on the right level of the banking, you could let go of the wheel and just sort of let the car drive itself almost at times because the way that the track was shaped. But I'm coming in, I'm like a little lower, and I'm looking across the track, and I see a Roadrunner running with a lizard in its mouth. And I'm going 210 miles an hour. That thing intercepts the car. I never try to swerve or anything because you're going so fast and it's so dangerous out there. So I know like I hit it because I didn't go to the left side. I didn't see or it went under. But I'm like, this didn't work out for this thing. We come back in. I get to the garage and they're like, get out. I come up front and in the grill is a Roadrunner mid-run with the lizard still in its mouth, plastered on the front end of the race car. like as if you drew it out. And I was like, all right, yep, that's wild. So
speaking of the proving grounds, we've told those proving ground stories. Those are fun to tell.
They're great ones.
Here's one that I don't know if I've said this on the podcast or in public. I've told it to people before personally, but this is kind of the dumb stuff you do when you're 19, 20, whatever. I should get retroactively fired for this, but those you were talking about the proving grounds being these big banked circles, right?
Yep.
And you know how you could always find that like sweet spot on the track where you could let go of the wheel.
Yeah, I just said that. Yeah.
Right, I'm bringing us back to that part of the conversation, right? So you could let go of the wheel, right? And the car would just fit. The banking is like a dish, right? And the track is a circle. So you could just let go of the wheel, and you're running wide open. And this isn't a big deal, okay? This is not a big deal. It sounds crazy. We're going to sensationalize it. But, like, you're not actually, at this point on the track, you're not driving the car. You're just wide open, going 210 miles an hour with your hands off the wheel, right? It's not that big a deal because the car doesn't move. The track is perfectly still. So it's not that hard. So you have to add some kind of challenge to it, like close your eyes.
No.
And no. I used to close my eyes and try to count until I had I would try to close my eyes. Yeah, I would close my eyes and just count to see how long I could go until I was like, okay, I'm scared. I need to open my eyes.
Oh my God. What's the longest you got?
Like 7 seconds.
So at 210 mile an hour, 7 seconds, Josh, do the math. You traveled so far.
With my eyes closed. But it all started with like, I just would take my hands off the wheel and then I'd put them back on. Take my hands off the wheel and put them back on. Then it was like, I could close my eyes. I could close my eyes for like a half second and open them back up. I'm like, oh man. And then it was just like, over the course of the run, and it was like 1, 2, okay, open. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh my God!
How fast were you going?
Like 200.
200.
Say 200.
Let's see.
7
200
seconds.
miles per hour. You
probably
went,
180 feet a second. Probably probably 1,000 feet.
You went 2,053 feet.
Oh gosh!
In that time frame.
What's a mile? What's a mile?
So this is a little under half a mile.
5,
so this is
half a mile.
So it's about 4/10 of a mile. So.
And you were going a little faster than that, probably. So that's wild. So I remember that we've totally derailed here, but I remember putting it was before AirPods, but I would run another, like, the Apple earpods that are wired, and I would play music and such in one ear and have them in the other ear. So a lot of times for, like, as we'd run around out there. And then the other thing I did, this is what I should be retroactively fired for as well, was cell phone videos.
Oh, I took cell phone videos.
Can you do the whole lap? I'm like, yeah, definitely can. Watch this, 220 miles an hour, and I'd be like, make it point right at the guardrail, which was terrifying, or the bridges that came at you. Yeah, terrible. Terrible.
Meanwhile, I was not telling anybody about this at the track. Like, never, nobody on the team knew this. This is me by myself being bored, driving with my eyes closed.
Jeez, at 200, you have definitely probably gone further than anyone in a race car, closed-eyed. That's for sure.
They're like, how did Landon die? He launched one off of the guardrail on the 5 mile. Nobody knows. They think something broke, but they just can't figure it out.
He just never opened his eyes. Is the problem. He just wouldn't open his eyes. Speaking of which, there is one story I'd heard many times, which was Clay Rogers launched one out off the guardrail and ended up so far out in the desert, they couldn't get an ambulance to him or anything. And I can't remember the full story, but like they had to run on foot to get out to the car and get him out of the car. So that was like early 2000s. Sketchy stuff we did in racing. Well, that wasn't open wheel, but it was some good stories. Unfortunately, though, we just totally derailed ourselves from our task here and our plan on our rundown. So we are not going to be able to have Kyle Busch on again. I know they thought he was coming on last week. He was planning to come this time. It ain't going to happen. So, sorry, Kyle. We will try, maybe not even next week, because we're doing our 1-year anniversary Q&A episode.
Yeah.
So it has to be a week after that. Yeah. Sorry, buddy. All right. That's it for the Money Lap. Peace. Thanks for listening to the Money Lap. As always, check out themoneylap.com for the best 5 minutes in motorsports, or sometimes just the coolest stuff in motorsports, delivered directly to your inbox 3 times a week. Check us out on YouTube. We're growing fast over there. And, of course, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. We're all over the internet. We're spreading the word of how cool motorsports is. Check us out.